Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections for Friday, December 4th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a very nice day as we ended up going 2-0. We swept the board on the plays. We won with Liberty minus 10.5 in their basketball matchup at minus 110 on DraftKings. They won by 16. We also won on Utah State team total under 19.5 in college football as they took on Air Force, and they only scored 7. So that was a nice, easy winner there at minus 108 on DraftKings. Nice day overall. The Utah State game was kind of funny. They scored a touchdown on the first drive, and then they proceeded to just not score for the other three quarters. Air Force ran it down their throats as I thought they would, and they pretty much did whatever they wanted. Utah State's backup quarterback, shocker, is not good whenever he's not facing New Mexico, and they ended up getting exposed once again because Utah State is just not a good football team. But for today's play, they are going to be sticking with college basketball. I know that there is one college football game on the card. You end up having Appalachian State and Lafayette, but we're not going to talk about that one. We're going to be talking about college basketball. It's going to be on a primetime matchup, actually, or whatever you want to call it, because it does involve a top 5 team in the country. It's going to be on a matchup between Wisconsin and Marquette. That will be taking place at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And for this play, we're going to be going with the favorite here. We're going to be taking Wisconsin. We're riding with the Badgers at -4 at minus 118 on Fox Bet. A time recording of 8:20 a.m. Eastern time. A couple reasons why I like Wisconsin in this spot. First of all, even though Marquette is the home team in this in-state rivalry game, there are no fans in attendance. Marquette has already announced that previously, so they have not been as sharp at home as you're used to seeing. Plus, anytime you have to look at Marquette and how they can ride the momentum of a crowd in such an intense rivalry game, and now they can't do so, I think that'll be a huge issue since the traveling for Wisconsin is going to be pretty easy because it's just going to be in-state. So I think Wisconsin should be able to handle the environment pretty well. Marquette also loses a bunch of pieces from last year. They lost their top 2 scorers. Of course, people, when they think of Marquette, are going to be thinking of Marcus Howard with 27.8 points per game, and he's no longer with the roster because he graduated. You also had Sakar Anim, who averaged 13.1 points per game. Both of them are no longer there. Now, leading the way for Marquette's offense is going to be Kobe McEwen, who is averaging 15.7 points per game. Very solid shot maker. He's pretty good. But the only issue is the fact that he's shooting 41.9% from the floor. So now they're facing off against an elite defensive team in Wisconsin, and their best scorer isn't exactly the most efficient on the planet. I think that's definitely a concern, especially if McEwen ends up struggling. I'm not sure if there's enough guys on this team that can pick up the slack. Marquette, for the past couple of years, has been relying heavily on one or two guys to carry the bulk of the scoring. This year, that's just not the case. They have to do more of a team-oriented approach, and they're not really accustomed to doing that. Now, so far this season, they are 2-1, as they were able to beat Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Eastern Illinois by at least 25 points apiece. But they had their first real test on Tuesday as they ended up taking on Oklahoma State in Cade Cunningham at home, and they lost that by 8 points. So don't get me wrong, Wisconsin hasn't faced anybody either. They haven't faced any real competition, but I do think Wisconsin's definitely better than Oklahoma State. I think that if Marquette had such a hard time scoring, only scoring 62 points against Oklahoma State, that they should struggle offensively in this game as well. Now, looking at another issue that I have with Marquette is the fact that their 2 leading rebounders, Theo John and Jamal Cain, they're both very good. I will acknowledge that, which is going to be important because of the fact that Wisconsin has Reavers and Potter, who are both very solid big men. The issue I have with Marquette is that both of those guys get into serious foul trouble very quickly, as Theo John and Jamal Cain are both averaging at least 2.7 fouls per game. Now they have to face off against 2 very solid big men, 2 of the best big men in the entire Big Ten. I think Marquette's going to have some issues, especially with foul trouble. I think John will probably pick up 2 in the first, I'd say, 10 minutes of the game. Cain might as well. And if those 2 get into foul trouble, Marquette might have some serious problems. And I do think that will be the case. So I think that Marquette will struggle in terms of staying out of foul trouble, and I think that Wisconsin should live at the free throw line, especially as they try to pound the interior. Now, looking at Wisconsin's roster, unlike Marquette, they bring back basically everybody from last year's team with the exception of Brevin Pritzel, who averaged 8 points per game. Personally, since I graduated from Wisconsin, I'm going to be completely honest, I never liked Pritzel. I thought he was just a bad basketball player. But at the end of the day, they bring back everybody else. They bring back, for example, I already mentioned Potter and Reavers. They bring back Ford. They bring back Trice. They bring back basically everybody. So Wisconsin has a very, very experienced roster in comparison to Marquette. I think that will definitely help them in this road game with no fans in attendance. I think that should matter. Wisconsin, overall, they're just a better shooting team as well. They're shooting 75.8% from the foul line, which used to be a huge issue for Wisconsin in previous years. So they're a great free throw shooting team, and they're also shooting 41.9% from the three-point line, whereas Marquette is shooting 68.4% from the foul line and 36.5% from the three-point line. So just the very, very short Cliff Notes version, Wisconsin shooting about 7% better from the foul line, and they're shooting about 6%, they're shooting about 5% better from the three-point line. So Wisconsin, I think, is the deeper team. I think the more experienced team. They are definitely the better shooting team. And I've already seen what Marquette can do when they face, I'd say, even decent competition, let alone elite competition, and they have struggled in the process. So for that reason, I think Wisconsin should be able to handle business. I think they should be able to take care of Marquette and win this game probably by about 8 points or so, especially if they're able to ice the game late with some free throws. Now, this line opened up at 3. It's been bet up to 4 pretty much all morning. Probably going to end up closing around 5 or 6. So I do like this line now because I do think this line will climb. But for that reason, I'm going to jump in on it now before it is too late. So the play that once again here for Friday, December 4th is going to be on Wisconsin -4. It's available on Fox Bet at -118. That's been Scott Selections. Good luck to all of you and respect the best today. Bye, everyone.